Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Sam Graham here. I've recently just launched my own AI automation agency, Align AI, and I wanted to go through the first big challenge or sort of question that I had to pose to myself, and that was whether to learn to code or not to learn to code. With all the no-code tools that are available, all the tutorials where you can operate these things pretty much just with written English, there's a real temptation just to jump into it and not really understand the basics of coding, which can be quite intimidating to people, so I do understand that. And when I say coding, what it's traditionally been used for is website development, software engineering, app creation. You don't need to go and get degrees in data science and software engineering. You can just jump straight in, use these pre-made tools and create your solutions that way. But the only thing they don't tell you is lacking that basic knowledge isn't going to really set you up well if you are planning to be in this space for a long time. When I first looked into this, I saw there was two real main coding languages that I saw people using. There was Python and JavaScript. So I had a further look into those. Python seemed to be more about customization. So it was apparently the easier one to learn, and it was more about when you're coming up with these solutions, if clients were ever to ask you to add anything on, or you weren't happy with the output you got from these tools, you would then just go open a Python environment, you would understand all these terms, you can just add your little bit of code in, and then that would be adapted in the solution you've made before. And then with JavaScript, it seemed more within the tools. It was meant to actually be the harder of the two to learn, so that put me off initially. It also seemed like it was more within the tools. So in these tools, there were fields generated, pre-populated, I should say, with bits of code already, and that was in JavaScript. So I was a bit torn between the two. I eventually ended up going down the route of Python just because, as I said, it was the simpler one to use. When I opened up Python for the first time,
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
It's not very intuitive. You just have lines and empty lines, you have brackets everywhere, you have all these terms you don't understand, there's curly brackets everywhere, and you're like, I don't even know where to start. But I'll put a link in the description to this free resource that basically cleared all that up for me. A video on another YouTube channel, I'll put it in there. Massive shout out to him. It's 12 hours long.
Oh, God! Oh, God!
Just to manage your expectations. But it covers everything from literally what each word means, what the rows mean, all the way up to the advanced things. It's got tutorials all the way in terms of tests that you have to take. I only actually got through the first 6 hours. As I said, it's 12 hours. I got through the first half of it. But even that 6 hours, it wasn't 6 hours of just watch the video, you're taking notes, you're doing tests. So really in all, it probably took me about 40 hours. It took me a full basically work week to get that understanding. And then at that point, I felt, right, I've now got a basic understanding of what the terms mean, what they're used for, basic functions that they run within the program. So I felt I was ready to go out and start using the AI tools that are available off the back of that knowledge.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
And that did serve me really well, because what you'll find is if you're doing this for yourself, a lot of the learning, I think the best resources are on YouTube. There's basically YouTube tutorials for every no-code tool, but you'll find they'll be referencing coding terms a lot. So if you don't understand what the actual basic terms are, you won't really follow what they're saying when they're guiding you through it. So they'll reference terms like variables, functions, what-if statements, these sorts of things. And if you didn't know that knowledge, you'd be watching this tutorial maybe half an hour and you get 5 minutes in and you wouldn't be able to follow it. So it's a complete waste of time. Then you'd have to go back and learn what that term meant and then come back to it. And it just makes things a lot less efficient in terms of trying to pick things up from the off. And another thing they don't tell you is a lot of these no-code tools are actually low-code tools. So a lot of them, although a lot of it is hidden behind the surface, they only leave certain fields free, and like I say, a lot of the code is hidden away. There's still going to be times where you're going to need to input single lines of code here or drag and drop variables into different places, things like that. So without that knowledge, it's going to make things more difficult for you. So that's the route that I took. Got sort of a basic understanding, then jumped into all the AI tools and softwares that are available, and that served me really well. I was able to follow all the tutorials, and then when I started doing things myself practically, it wasn't such a big leap forward. When I did go to start, I would still have, if you put a blank page of code in front of me and told me to write code for it, I'd be pretty stuck. But because I had the basic understanding, I could go and then follow all the tutorials and follow what they said. So it was definitely worth it in that sense. So going back to the original question, I'd probably say it's a matter of when you learn code as to if you learn code, just because If you want to make it far in this game and be successful, you're going to need to pick it up at some point. So my advice would be put the hard time in at the beginning. I know it's maybe not as fun. You just want to get into it and set everything up and get earning money. But honestly, the time you put in at the beginning will compound 10 times over throughout the process of you learning the other tools and getting started offering your solutions. You'll be able to charge more to your clients because you can offer highly customized solutions, which you wouldn't be if you didn't have that knowledge. So I'd highly recommend putting in that time at the start to learn either Python or JavaScript. I'll leave the choice up to you, but the link in the description is for the Python tutorial that I followed. I don't have one for JavaScript, so maybe if you guys find one, you can put the link to it in the comments and I can pick that up too. Thanks for watching, all the best.